The fact that there are influencers who built gigantic followings based on their conversations around body positivity, healing your relationship with food. One thing about me, I'm gonna eat. I'll never be a size 2. I don't care.
Honestly, I think it shows how well I've been doing in
who have now done a complete 180 and are now talking about weight loss medications. I'm about to hit myself with 2 doses of a GLP-1.
I'm on a GLP-1 and I know some people are gonna feel very hurt or confused or be like, what the
You're fake.
Body positivity is dead, or at the very least, morphing into something very different than what it once was. So in today's video, I want to talk about this shift and the influencers who, knowingly or not, helped bring about this change. But before we dive into these creators, let's take a step back. Because if we're going to talk about body positivity changing, we have to first be clear about what it actually is or was in the first place. So what is body positivity? At its core, body positivity is the belief that all bodies are worthy, exactly as they are. That includes people in marginalized bodies, like amputees, burn victims, or people with visible disabilities and scars. And yes, it also includes people living in a larger body. Although some trace the roots of body positivity back to the fat liberation movement in the 60s and 70s, the messaging that we're really familiar with today took off around the 2010s, especially online. After the heroin chic era of the early 2000s, when emaciated models were plastered across every magazine cover, the body positivity movement was refreshing. For years, media and pop culture had been relentlessly promoting the idea of the perfect body. Thin, white, able-bodied, and often surgically enhanced, and forever unreachable. This created an immense pressure and anxiety for mainly women who were striving to conform to these narrow ideals. But then, body positivity came along as this sort of counter-movement, challenging those long-standing norms. This movement instead said that beauty comes in diverse forms, and that individuals should not feel compelled to adhere to the unrealistic expectations promoted by brands like Victoria's Secret or Brandy Melville, with their traditionally homogenous representation of what a model should look like. Along with the body positivity movement, we also started hearing more about fat acceptance and body neutrality. And I think it's important to define these two because these terms are not interchangeable. For some, the idea of body positivity still felt too body focused. And so instead, body neutrality came about as this more inwardly focused approach, focusing more on what your body can do rather than obsessing over what it looks like. Where body positivity said, love your body no matter what, body neutrality said, you don't have to love your body, you just have to respect it. The idea is that you can exist in your body without constantly judging it. You don't need to feel beautiful or empowered 24/7, you can just be. And so this more grounded approach felt liberating to people who felt pressure under the body positivity messaging, which pushed you to feel good about your body all the time, even when you didn't. But fat acceptance and fat activism is entirely different. Fat activism is more of a political movement. Fat activism says, I know I'm worthy, and I'm demanding that the rest of the world acknowledge that fact too. Rather than being more inwardly focused, like body positivity and body neutrality, fat acceptance is outwardly focused. They already know that they're the hot shit. And now their mission is to make sure that everybody else accepts that notion as well. And so with these terms in mind, today we're primarily focused on body positivity, which started out as a positive thing, especially coming out of the toxic standards of the early 2000s. For many people, body positivity helped them escape these toxic beauty standards. It created a space for real representation, and it made it okay for you to not hate yourself for not looking like these models in the magazines. But today, those messages are often diluted or entirely abandoned by the very people who built their platforms on them. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about a few influencers and public figures who had once aligned themselves with the body positivity movement, but are now making choices that seem to go entirely against what they once stood for. And we're going to start with Miss Justice, aka the anti-diet pilot, who has gone on a diet. Well, sort of. She's gone on the GLP-1, so sort of a forced diet, as it were. So the last time that Justice, aka the anti-diet pilot, made an appearance on this channel, we went through her very firm stance on everything anti-diet. According to Justice, all diets are bad, and any form of restriction is toxic. And if you so much as consider skipping dessert or limiting your soda intake, well, that's restriction. And according to Justice, you will never heal from an if you even think of restricting your intake.
And these people are like, I'm so proud of myself, I didn't drink the soda. That is restriction. Do you know what causes?
And listen, I've got to tread lightly this time because even mentioning the term is enough to get me immediately demonetized, which is what happened in my last video within like 30 seconds of posting. That's totally fine, not mad about it. I'm totally over it. Anyway, for years now, Justice has been making video after video declaring that the only way to heal from an for absolutely anyone is to eliminate any form of restriction. In addition to her messaging that being obese is totally healthy and even healthier than being thin. And now, well, Justice has officially started taking a GLP-1 weight loss medication, which she has also been staunchly opposed to in the past. However, to her credit, she didn't lie or hide about the fact that she is now taking this GLP-1 medication. She took a little break from the internet, and once she was ready, she openly and honestly broke the news to her followers.
I'm on a GLP-1 and I know some people are gonna feel very hurt or confused or be like, what the f? I also would probably say the same thing. I've been wanting to come back to TikTok for a very long time, but I told myself until I was ready to talk about this, I would not come back because I did not want to be a dishonest bitch like some of these other people, no names.
Okay, whoa, Justice has got a cool little bit there because it was really not that long ago that Justice was up on her little soapbox dragging other creators for doing exactly what she's doing now. Building a following on anti-diet content only to hop on a GLP-1 medication the moment it becomes convenient.
I'm gonna take the heat since no one else will, and I'll talk about this. The fact that there are influencers who built gigantic followings based on their conversations around body positivity, healing your relationship with food and with exercise, who have now done a complete 180 and are now talking about weight loss medications, weight loss surgeries, and just like being on a weight loss journey in general. That should literally be illegal. I really thought that the people in my mutual circle were like, we're the real ones. You're fake.
Looking a little bit like she's got her foot caught in her mouth and she has to do some serious backpedaling. If you're not familiar with Justice, she too built her following around her very strong opinions about food freedom, body acceptance, and healing your relationship with food. But it didn't stop there. She also made some pretty bold and pretty outrageous claims about weight loss itself. According to Justice, it's actually unhealthy to lose weight. And actually, fat bodies are healthier than thin bodies.
This next TikTok is just her with music with the text reading. When I tell people fat bodies live longer than thin bodies and are better at fighting diseases.
Based on her prior content, Justice was very much aligned in the health at every size crowd.
So we understand that health doesn't equate to a body size when it comes to thin people, but for some reason, when we talk about fat people living healthy, balanced lifestyles, all of a sudden, they're the exception. Fat people can never be healthy. That's a fucking contradiction.
And if you want a whole deep dive on the kind of information that Justice was spreading before she hopped on the GLP-1 medication, I'll have that video linked above and below in the description too. Not gonna make any money off of it, but here we are. But the main point here is that for most of the people who were following Justice and supported her messaging, seeing that Justice has now hopped on this GLP-1 weight loss medication, even if she's not hiding the fact that she's on that medication, this change feels hugely hypocritical. But according to Justice, she's not taking this medication for weight loss. No. She says that she's on this medication for some unspecified underlying condition.
I want to just first of all say that I did not get on GLP-1 for weight loss. I have an underlying medical condition. I'm not going to go into detail, but it was prescribed by my doctor. I remember sitting in the doctor's office being like, this stupid fat phobic bitch. Like,
okay, first off, she's really got to start watching her mouth here, because calling your doctor who's trying to help you a fat phobic just because they dare to suggest a GLP-1 medication, that is not any sort of empowerment or advocacy. You just sound extremely reactive and juvenile. And I still cannot believe how ready she was to call fat phobia right up until the moment that she was taking this GLP-1 medication. I just picture her sitting there, seething with anger and rage, and assuming that she was being discriminated against because of her size, only to later decide, oh hey, actually this medication, it is helpful for me. Should be for real.
Like, I genuinely thought she was just being fat phobic because I'm telling her I'm having these symptoms and she's like prescribing me a weight loss medication. Like, what the f? I just felt like I was so angry at the time. But I came home, did my own research. Because of my symptoms, I was like so desperate at the time. I was like, I need relief. So like, if I just try this and it doesn't work, my insurance covers it, like no harm, no foul. After 4 weeks of being on the GLP-1, I was eating 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I worked with a dietitian for a little bit in the beginning. I am mindful about my protein. I'm not like, You know, I try to get over 100 grams a day, but like, honestly, I just eyeball it and I don't hit it every day and I don't care. I try to get 25 grams of fiber, but that's a goal I've had before the GLP-1, and then just trying to drink a lot of water, electrolytes, things like that. So in that regard, like eating wise, I don't really feel like it changed a lot. It did change like the way that I crave food. Like I don't crave like fast food and stuff like that anymore. Now I would much rather cook than like go out to eat. So I think that's like the biggest change.
So as she said, Justice claims that she's on this GLP-1 medication not for weight loss. It's for some unspecified underlying condition that she doesn't want to get into. And okay, sure, she's allowed her privacy. But just as a little side note here, the medication that she's on is Zepbound, a drug that was FDA approved specifically for weight loss, as well as weight management and more recently sleep apnea, which I don't think she has that, but could be wrong there. And while yes, doctors can prescribe medications off-label, as in they can prescribe a medication for something that it wasn't initially designed for. That's pretty common and totally legal. But this isn't some obscure drug that just happens to deal with multiple issues. Zepbound is brand new and is highly marketed and known almost exclusively for weight loss. So when someone like Justice, whose entire brand was built on anti-weight loss messaging, is now taking this weight loss medication and yet insisting that it's not for weight loss, it really starts to bring into question her credibility in her niche. And then we get into her explanation and her describing all the benefits that she's having on this medication. But it's all appetite based. She talks about no longer craving fast food, cooking more at home, eating 3 meals a day, and being more mindful about her protein and fiber. She specifically says that she doesn't crave fast food and stuff like that anymore, that she would much rather cook at home rather than going out to eat. So if this really isn't about weight loss, why only exclusively talk about the diet effects that you're seeing on this drug when you're talking about the benefits? Well, based on Justice's own long history of sharing her relationship with food online, it seems clear that what she's doing now is that she's trying to show that this medication is simply to help her reduce food noise, that constant background chatter around food, the fixation, the guilt, the cravings, and the probable mental exhaustion that Justice was facing that she also often talked about on her platform. And this makes a lot of sense, because while reducing food noise isn't an official use of a GLP-1 medication, it is one of the most commonly reported side effects for people taking the drug. For a lot of people, taking this medication is not just about shrinking their bodies, it's also about helping them control their cravings around food. But if that is what's happening here, if Justice is only taking this medication as a way to find relief from something that has affected her for years, then why wouldn't she just say that? Why go so hard trying to separate this from weight loss while only talking about the outcomes that are directly related to weight loss? And what about all of her discussions about her supposed recovery prior to her taking these medications? Because Justice has been bouncing back and forth for years now. One minute she's crying in her kitchen.
I ended up falling asleep. Then when I woke up, I devoured all this food. I did not feel good about it.
And the next, she's ordering 3 boxes of pizza and boasting about how well she's doing in her recovery.
When I first started recovery, I never thought I would have this food in my presence again. Honestly, I think it shows how well I've been doing in recovery.
And I'm honestly not sure if she was just cycling between highs and lows in her recovery here, or she was just saying what she needed to say to try to convince herself that she really was on the right path. But if I had to put my money on it, I'd say that Justice probably never really recovered. At some point, she probably just got exhausted from trying to fight the urges and the guilt and the obsession around food. And rather than fully surrendering to all of her cravings, like she so loudly encouraged all of her followers to do, Justice took a different route. She turned to medication to dull the noise that she'd been battling with for years. And please don't take me the wrong way here. This is not a dig at people that need to use external support to help with their internal struggles. If Justice or anyone else found relief from their food noise through taking a medication like Zepbound or any other GLP-1 medication, that is a great thing, like truly. These medications have been life-saving or at the very least life-changing for so many people in so many ways. That's not what I'm talking about here, and that's not my major problem with Justice here. If Justice is using a GLP-1 to help control her cravings and her obsession around food, then we've got to talk about the messaging that she built her brand on, because that's where the hypocrisy starts. For years now, Justice has been preaching that any form of restriction is inherently damaging, that the only path to healing was to give in to every craving guilt-free. But if that method of give in to all your cravings really worked, then why would she need a medication to silence those cravings? Is it possible that the side effect to the give in to all your cravings method, the inevitable weight gain, was undesirable to her? And wouldn't that mean that she wasn't actually happy with the idea of living in a larger body? This idea, of course, doesn't align with the body positive brand that Justice had built her following on. And if this isn't about self-image, if her motivation instead is to avoid the negative health outcomes of becoming obese, well, then she needs to address her past claims that being fat is just as healthy, if not healthier, than being thin or a normal BMI. So really, no matter what her motivation was, if she was going to take this GLP-1 medication, she had to know that it was going to make her look like a hypocrite. And so she had to prepare for this inevitable backlash before coming back to the internet.
I was just really struggling trying to figure out how to come back and talk about this. I've also been experiencing like a lot of cognitive dissonance and feeling like a hypocrite or like a failure. I think almost exactly a year ago, I went viral talking smack about GLP-1s and how all these people are going on GLP-1s for weight loss and just like pretending like nothing happened. I think my body has definitely changed since being on a GLP-1. So it is something that's been kind of like hard for me because I'm like, oh, I'm feeling better and I'm losing weight. With my experience, I'm starting to like link those two again. And I don't want to like go back into that mindset of like, I need to be as small as possible in order to be healthy. I think the biggest thing for me is that I don't know what the future of my account is. I really just want to be able to post whatever I want. So that's why I'm making the disclaimer. I don't think I'm going to be doing like, hey guys, I lost X amount of pounds this week. Like, I don't think I'm going to be doing anything like that. It doesn't interest me. And there's already a bunch of people that already do that on GLP-1s on this app.
Okay, so let's start with her mention of cognitive dissonance, the internal discomfort that arises when your actions don't align with your values or beliefs. And if we're talking about the definition of cognitive dissonance, then Justice is a pretty good example of that. She acknowledges that she feels like a hypocrite and a failure. And honestly, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Maybe not the failure part, but definitely the hypocrite part. And that's not because she chose to take the GLP-1 medication rather than brute force her way through her problem. It's because of the context in which she did it. The issue isn't that she's now taking medication that she once publicly criticized. If that were it, if she were to just say, you know, I misunderstood the drug, I've learned more, and now I understand that it can help people like me, that would be fine. That would be growth. And we love a full circle moment. That would show maturity and openness and a willingness to change one's own assumptions. And I personally believe that that kind of transparency would earn her more respect. But that's not what's happening here. Instead, Justice has tried to soft launch a major contradiction between her past and present self without fully owning it. She's admitted that she's benefiting from this medication, but what she's dancing around is the fact that she's also benefiting from the weight loss that this medication is causing. And that is a massive shift from the foundation of her brand. Contrary to everything that she once stood for, she is now losing weight and she's happy about it. And while she was initially very quick to claim that she was not taking this medication for anything weight loss related, she has come to all but admit that she is in fact aiming to lose weight. In her comment section, she responded to somebody who asked her, "Do you feel conflicted pursuing weight loss despite being very against it?" To which she simply responded, "Yes." Based on her current statements, it sounds like she's expecting the weight loss to continue. I mean, if weight loss wasn't the goal, why wouldn't she either ignore or push back against the idea that she was pursuing weight loss? Why even bother clarifying that she wasn't going to show how many pounds she was losing in a week? That only makes sense if she's anticipating people wanting updates, or she anticipates having updates that she wants to give regarding her weight loss. Oh, and by the way, even though she claimed she didn't think that she would want to share how many pounds of weight she was losing per week, she did share this.
I'm doing my injection today. I've officially been on Zepbound for 8 weeks, and my biggest happiness, well, there's two things, but the first is that I feel like I have my face back. Like, I have my face back. Like, this is my face. This is how I remember it. And not having as like much inflammation and shit is just making me feel so much better. I just finished week 8 and I've lost
I'm sorry, what was that? She's lost about, yeah, that little blank, that little weird cut and pause, that was her stopping to think that, hey, maybe my followers won't appreciate that I'm proudly sharing how much weight I'm losing. And her talking about getting her face back, that was another huge point of contention with her followers, because everyone in the fat acceptance and body positive sphere knows that it's a cardinal sin to share before and after photos, just as Justice did. With this post where she wrote, "Took 8 weeks to reverse 1 bad year." First off, I don't like the implication that all it takes is 8 weeks to reverse a whole bad year. For some, weight gain or weight loss is not so simple and easy, and it's not something that can just be flipped like a switch with one prescription. That kind of messaging can be incredibly misleading and invalidating for some. And I think that it can promote the illusion that taking a GLP-1 medication is some sort of quick and easy fix, and any damage done through poor nutrition over years can just be easily undone, which simply isn't true for the majority of people who need to take these types of drugs. However, using this as a caption on a personal little post, just talking about yourself and your own experiences, honestly not that big of a deal to me. However, that minor gripe aside, Justice should have known her core audience wasn't going to like this. In these communities, mainly the body positive and fat acceptance crowd, before and afters are treated like a betrayal. They symbolize that you didn't accept yourself in the before photo and that you wanted to change and that you value your smaller body more than you did your bigger one. And once you've aligned yourself with the body positive brand, you are not allowed to admit that you are trying to change the way you look in any way. But according to Justice, she wasn't trying to change the way she looked. She was just trying to get back to the way she looked before the before photo.
I'm specifically talking about the inflammatoriness of my face in the before photo. You guys, a GLP-1 will literally get rid of every ounce of excess water in your body. You will not be inflamed on this medication. It's like genuinely impossible. So what I'm specifically talking about is the change in my face. Like, I'm probably not going to disclose whether or not I've lost weight or how much weight I've lost. Like, I mean, I could change my mind at any point, but right now I don't feel like I'm going to be doing that. Some people won't understand, but like when you lose your face temporarily and then all of a sudden you have your face back and you look in the mirror, every time you look in the mirror, it's like you recognize yourself again. Like for so long, I felt like I didn't recognize myself, and like all of a sudden I'm like recognizing myself again, and like that is priceless, okay? And I wanted to share it on the internet. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I know like I can't please everyone, but I tried to do this the best that I could.
Justice trying to get back to how she was before the before photo is actually a common experience with lots of these weight loss transformations. Lots of people are looking back to how they were in junior high and trying to get back to that state. So I don't know why Justice thought that that was in any way different to anyone else's weight loss journey. But anyway, this whole situation speaks to a broader shift that's happening in the body positive space. When we see creators like Justice, who once condemned any form of weight loss, now posting before and after photos, talking about weight loss, and even celebrating the physical changes that they're seeing, it's clear that something is cracking. Suddenly, we're seeing pushback against this idea that loving your body means never wanting to change it in any way, or that health means only acceptance and not action, or that wanting to feel better or even look better in your body is inherently a betrayal of body positivity. And honestly, I think that pushback is a good thing. You can love yourself and still want better for yourself. Those ideas are not mutually exclusive. Growth doesn't cancel out self-acceptance. You can embrace who you are while also evolving. You can be proud of your journey and still choose a different path moving forward. And that's why, even though Justice is getting a lot of hate right now, I don't think she necessarily deserves the commentary that paints her as this permanent villain. If anything, I think she's a really good example of what it looks like when someone starts to wake up. And we've seen this many times before. People who were once deep in the health at every size and fat acceptance movements. Just a quick pause because Bear is getting too hot and I have to put him outside. But I realized that I never introduced you guys to any of my co-hosts, so I thought I'd do that real quick here. Okay, so this is Bear. He is like an Anatolian Shepherd or Kangal. Kangal? I don't know. He's such a good boy. Look at him. Look at him. Good boy, Bear. My sweetest baby boy. This is co-host number 2. You probably see her most often. Her name is Jules. She's our only indoor cat, and she's a bit of a bitch, but I love her still. People who were once in the health at every size and body acceptance world, who now use their platforms to call out contradictions and damaging messaging from these communities. Take Megan, for example, someone who many of you are probably familiar with. She used to be fully immersed in the same sort of rhetoric as Justice, and now she's making content just like this, unpacking the problems, the peer pressure, the disinformation, and speaking to a wider truth. So if you, like me, have always been critical of creators like Justice, I'd argue that this is the moment to shift our commentary too. Yes, she's been hypocritical, and yes, she still needs to own that. But she's not locked into her past forever. She is in a unique position right now, perhaps beginning to question her old beliefs, and maybe starting to see the holes in the movement that she once defended. And maybe, just maybe, she's starting to step towards a more honest perspective. And that is exactly why I make videos like this. Not to shame people like Justice, but to pull people out of these movements that once felt empowering, but are now holding them back. So to see Justice now on a GLP-1 and admitting that, and to see her now losing weight, admitting that too, and also being happy about it, and to see that she is proud of her progress, I'll be honest, I was proud for her too. But, and this is a big but, there's a major flaw in all of this. She still hasn't changed her stance on the harmful messaging that she used to push. Not just passively, but often aggressively. Like the idea that any form of diet or restriction is inherently harmful, or that being overweight is somehow healthier than being in the normal BMI range.
People get pissed off when they find out that you're on a GLP-1. Let this be a learning lesson to anyone else who's on a GLP-1 and was thinking about announcing it on their social media, because the fact that people are so invested in like making YouTube videos, plural, about me, TikToks about me, it's honestly so fucking weird. People are asking like, are you gonna go back on what you said? Are you gonna apologize for all the things you said? No, because I still believe them, babe. The problem with the internet is that because most of the people that share their GLP-1 journeys on the internet are doing it for weight loss reasons, you assume that everyone else that's on a GLP-1 is doing it for weight loss reasons. There are so many other benefits to a GLP-1 that I had no idea about until my doctor told me about them. People think that whatever I said 2 years ago, I have to believe that for the rest of my life. When I talked about GLP-1s, it's from what I learned from social media, which is probably the same thing that everyone else has learned from social media, until a doctor literally sat down and talked to me about how a GLP-1 would help me in other ways beyond weight loss. That is the first time I had ever heard anyone using a GLP-1 for more than just weight loss. There's no like gotcha moment, because I literally made a 2-minute long video, pinned it to my profile, announcing the fact that I was on a GLP-1. So for people to be like, haha, you're on a GLP-1, yeah, I know, I literally told you.
Okay, first off, yes, round of applause for Justice for not hiding the fact that she's on this GLP-1. I do think that transparency is important, especially for someone like Justice, whose whole brand was against the idea of a drug like this in the first place. Also, credit where credit is due. She actually listened to her doctor. She learned something new, and she shifted her understanding of what GLP-1s can do. That's growth, and we love to see that. But then she says she still stands by everything she has said in the past. She won't apologize for it because she still believes it, babe. So what exactly did she learn? Only that GLP-1s can do more than just cause weight loss? That's it. She can expand her view on GLP-1 medications, but none of her other health beliefs are up for reassessment. You can't claim personal growth in one breath and then double down on outdated and debunked health messaging in the next. If you're truly evolving, if you're learning and healing, you should be open to re-examining everything, not just this one idea that your doctor happened to clarify you on. Because Justice isn't just someone who had misguided opinions 2 years ago. She's someone who amplified those opinions to her thousands of followers. And she didn't just misinform. She also mocked, ridiculed, and outright attacked anyone who had a different opinion than her own. She says that people think, whatever I said 2 years ago, I have to believe that for the rest of my life. That's not quite it. People think that you should take accountability for the harmful messaging that you were putting out and the damage that it might have caused, especially if your current choices now contradict what you once preached. So how can she say that she still believes everything that she said 2 years ago and then also be upset that she's being held accountable for those same things? And I really think that Justice is only comprehending half of the reason why people might be upset at her. She thinks that the issue is that she's losing weight, or that she's on a GLP-1 medication, or that she outed herself before anyone else could. She seems to believe that being honest about being on the medication means that no one should be mad. But the core issue is not that she's on the medication or even that she's losing weight. It's that she's losing weight while also still clinging to and defending the same anti-diet, anti-science, pro-fat rhetoric that made her popular in the first place. You can't proudly be on a weight loss medication while simultaneously defending the idea that intentional weight loss is dangerous or ineffective or unnecessary. You can't rave about how good you feel now that your inflammation is gone and that your face looks like how you used to look, and still claim that being overweight is just as healthier than being a normal weight. You can't create an entire platform rejecting mainstream health narratives and then pivot into using those exact same tools that the health narratives recommend without at least acknowledging the contradiction. Justice wants to take credit for being honest, but she doesn't want to take accountability for having been wrong. The version of Justice that I was hopeful for, the one who might step out of the haze of toxic positivity and fat acceptance, who might use her story to help others step out of that same illusion, that Justice is not here yet. Because real growth isn't just about changing your personal choices. It's about looking back at what you used to believe and what you used to say and asking yourself, was I wrong? Did I hurt people? The only thing that Justice seems to think people should be angry at her for is if she had hidden the fact that she was taking this GLP-1. But she didn't hide it. She was upfront and pinned it to her profile. And so she feels that people shouldn't be mad, and that should be the end of the discussion.
You guys are upset with Remy Bader because she didn't disclose the fact that she had weight loss surgery for a year. And the commentary was, well, like, if she would have just told us from the beginning, it would have been fine. Like, her body, her choice, though. Okay. And then we move over to Janelle, which really solidified the fact that your issue is that people are not disclosing it from the beginning. Okay. Perfect. So when I decide that I'm coming back to the internet, I am asking some of my mutuals and even some of my close friends, I'm like, should I say anything about being on a GLP-1? Pretty much everyone was like, no, like it's no one else's business. However, I'm very sensitive knowing that the majority of my audience I built while going through recovery. And I know, as somebody who, went through that it's very triggering when you're watching somebody like move into a smaller body, and people with or that type of behavior, we are very observant of people's bodies, and I did not want anyone to feel like they're going crazy or like what is going on, without saying anything. Also, the fact that I'm not embarrassed about being on a GLP-1, I was like, I'm just gonna say it. I'm not understanding why people still have a problem. So you have a problem when people don't disclose it. You have a problem when people disclose it. So what's the issue?
The issue is the hypocrisy. Justice wants to take credit for being transparent, which she does deserve. But she doesn't seem to understand that the problem is bigger than just disclosure. The problem is trying to simultaneously be the face of body positivity while also being someone who is actively engaging in weight loss, intentionally. These two ideologies are fundamentally at odds, considering how body positivity currently exists. And to be clear, I don't think it's wrong that she's on a GLP-1 medication. In fact, I think that it's great that she's actually finding relief and seeing results that she's proud of. What I'm saying is that we can't pretend that this isn't a contradiction. Justice can't build an audience by shaming diets and denying the risks of obesity and promoting body acceptance and body positivity as a moral imperative and then pivot into a new body and new mindset without at least acknowledging the contradiction and confronting her prior history. If anything, this current case study of Justice highlights a bigger flaw in the current mindset of body positivity. It doesn't leave room for growth. There's no space to change your mind, to want to feel better or even look better in your body, to pursue weight loss without being labeled as a traitor to the cause. And that's a problem, because body positivity shouldn't mean stagnation. It shouldn't mean resigning yourself to feeling unwell. It should mean advocating for your own health and autonomy without shame, even if that journey leads to change. So no, Justice, it's not just that people have a problem with influencers who don't disclose. And it's not even that they have a problem when you do disclose. And this brings us to another example, one that Justice even referenced in her own defense, Remy Bader. Remy, unlike Justice, didn't disclose her weight loss journey. In fact, she kept quiet for nearly a year before revealing that she had had weight loss surgery. And that silence stirred up a whole different storm of criticism. But that also raises another key question. Is transparency enough? Or is it even required in the first place? And that's where I'm going to end things for now, but please do remember to subscribe because I will be coming out with a part 2 as soon as I can. But for now, Bye. Burp.